Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Poornima Maurya, and the topic of my research is prevalence of premenstrual syndrome and its impact on sleep quality and quality of life in college-going females. So, premenstrual syndrome is very common. It is a cyclic disorder which occurs in young and middle-aged women, and it is characterized by emotional and physical symptoms that is occurred during the luteal phase. So the prevalence of premenstrual syndrome is different among different countries, among different populations. And premenstrual syndrome, if premenstrual syndrome becomes severe, then we can call it as premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So PMS and PMDD have different symptoms and signs and symptoms, which include breast tenderness, body pain, concentration problem, headache, sleep disturbances, some psychological issues like anxiety, mood swings, depression, etc. So out of these symptoms, only 6 symptoms are identified as core symptoms. Now, if I talk about sleep, so sleep is very important for our body to function well. We can view sleep as a key which determines the health of the individual. So according to researches, females complains more problems in sleeping during the premenstrual syndrome period more than any other time of the month. And studies have also shown that women with premenstrual syndrome have reduced their productivity. They have more problem in doing their daily tasks. So there are some studies which are conducted on the depressive and anxiety disorder. They say that PMS is a kind of disorder which have noticeable psychological aspect. That means they have psychological symptoms which can negatively affect the quality of life of an individual. So experimental evidences have shown that there is a relationship between sleep and cognitive functions, means the process through which we think, our memory, uh, problem solving task, reasoning. This all hampers if our sleep gets declined. So enough sleep is very important for fighting infections, metabolism, and effective functioning of all the cognitive functions. So if I conclude, then if there is any decline in the sleep, so any decline in the sleep can also affect the overall quality of life. And if a female is suffering from premenstrual syndrome, that means if she is having any difficulty in sleeping, and have poor quality of life, which can hamper their day-to-day activities and hence affect their quality of life as well. So what is the need of the study? So there are some studies which have separately analyzed the effect of premenstrual syndrome. Uh, and they have done the study with premenstrual syndrome with different factors like anxiety, depression, but there is not enough study done on the prevalence and impact on sleep quality and quality of life, especially in Indian population. So I have designed my study in order to take all the three aspects together to find out the prevalence of premenstrual syndrome and its impact on sleep quality and quality of life in young students. And if I talk about the role of physiotherapy, then there are various treatments like yoga, aerobic exercises, taping with hot packs, swimming, visual meditation, mistral technique, breathing exercises, and also some modalities like ultrasound, which can help us to reduce the pain and symptoms of the premenstrual syndrome. So my study will help us to create awareness, because in India there is lack of awareness regarding the female reproductive health and mental health as compared to foreign countries, because in foreign countries there are special physiotherapists which works in the field of female reproductive health, but in India it is lacking. So this will create awareness. And as a physiotherapist, what we can do, we can assess the physical effect, because premenstrual syndrome causes lots of body pain, muscle pain, as well as back pain. So as a physiotherapist, we can assess those physical effects which are occurring on our body, and as well as we can assess the risk factors that worsen the symptoms, and accordingly we can advise the treatment and management to the patient. The aim of my study is to find out the prevalence of premenstrual syndrome and its impact on sleep quality and quality of life in college going females. And the objective is to find out the prevalence, to find out the correlation between PMS and sleep quality, and correlation between PMS and quality of life. These are my hypothesis, null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. So these are some articles which I reviewed for my study. So let's come on methodology. So the design of my study was correlational study, and I have taken 107 samples. And the method which I have used for sampling and assignment was sample of convenience. My inclusion criteria was all the females which are under 18 to 25 years, and only college going females and subjects who can read and understand English language. My exclusion criteria was current major medical and psychological problem, receiving hormonal therapy, married females, pregnant females, any neurological musculoskeletal problem, any gynecological problem or related surgical intervention, any cardiovascular and respiratory problem, and those subjects who are not willing to participate. So this is my protocol. I have created a Google form using the questionnaires, and then Google form was circulated randomly, and the responses was recorded. Then the scoring was done using standardized scales, and the data was analyzed, and the result was reported. So this is the procedure. I developed a questionnaire. I developed Google form using the questionnaires. Then the questionnaire was circulated via different platforms. Then the responses of the participants were recorded, and out of those participants, I have selected 107 females who met my inclusion criteria. I have divided my questionnaire into 4 sections. Section A was demographic data and journal assessment. Section B was the questionnaires based on PMS scales, and same for section C and D. It is based on the scales. So I have used 3 scales: premenstrual syndrome scales for the measurement of severity of premenstrual syndrome, Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index for measuring the sleep quality, SF12 questionnaire for quality of life. And after that, the data collected from the survey was then analyzed, and my result was obtained. So my data was analyzed by using SPSS software version 25, and correlation was calculated by Spermian correlation. And according to the result of my study, the prevalence of premenstrual syndrome in college-going females found it to be 98.2%, which is quite very high. And if I talk about correlation, then there comes a negative correlation. That means if premenstrual syndrome increases in a female, that means the sleep quality decreases, as well as her quality of life also declines. So these are my results. This is graph. And now comes on discussion. So as I have proposed it earlier, that the purpose of my study is to find out the prevalence and its impact on the factors of sleep quality and quality of life. So I have found that there is very high prevalence among university students, college going females. It comes to be 98.2%, and there are many researches which supports my result also. So here are some researches. After that, there were some researches which contradicted my which contradicted my result. For example, according to their studies, they said that only the physical symptoms are associated with sleep quality, not premenstrual syndrome is not directly affecting the sleep quality, but only the physical symptoms are hampering their sleep quality. And there is a research done by IRADA in 2017 on hospital nurses. So according to the result, 33.5% reported good sleep quality, 66.5% reported poor sleep quality. But here is a twist, that those 66.5% nurses who reported poor sleep quality, they are not all suffering from premenstrual syndrome. So the reason behind this is they said that due to night shifts, maybe they are facing sleep issues. Okay, so let's discuss physiology behind the relationship of premenstrual syndrome and sleep. What happens during each phase of menstrual cycle? There is change in the hormonal production, which affects each system of the human body. Basically, progesterone and estrogen decreases during the menstrual cycle. So it results into various physical and emotional symptoms by two mechanisms. It works basically by two mechanism. First is body temperature, and second is melatonin production. Melatonin is responsible for regulating our sleep cycle and maintaining our regular sleep patterns. But what happens during the premenstrual week, the melatonin production decreases. It decreases, so it results in increase in slow wave sleep. And if I talk about the mechanism of body temperature, then what happens? Progesterone decreases, and if progesterone decreases, then the temperature of our body increases, which results into fragmentation of the sleep. That means overall quality of sleep of a female is declining. This is the physiology behind this. So the conclusion of my research is that there is very high prevalence of premenstrual syndrome in college-going females, and there is negative correlation between premenstrual syndrome and sleep quality, and premenstrual syndrome and quality of life, which means that PMS affects both sleep quality as well as quality of life. So the limitation of my study is I have taken very small sample size, and I have done my study using Google Form via online platform. And the time period is very limited. Future scope is future study will be needed to find out the prevalence and its impact on larger scales. Means we can done the same we can do the same research on a larger population, and we can also study the effect of different treatments which I have discussed earlier on the premenstrual syndrome symptoms. And also we can done comparison study. We can compare two kinds of treatment, and we can discuss which one is more better. And in the future, we can also do the research on premenstrual syndrome in relation with the psychosomatic disorder, because according to researches, it is also considered as a psychosomatic disorder. And we can also do research in neurophysiological disorder, for example, cognitive deficits such as memory retention, learning, attention. So these are my references. In case of any query, I have put my email address on the slide. You can contact me. I would love to answer your query. Thank you so much.